Sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry. No, it's the same room. Same room. More people, probably. So when will you give me cue, old boy? Okay, lovely. Okay, the guys are on their way. You might need it. Oh, right, okay. That's fine. Don't worry, we're not live yet. It's okay. If anyone wants to help me out with the pronunciation of the new signings, I'd much appreciate it. They're not making it easy for us, are they? That's for sure. It's a test, I think. As I say, is there lots of questions out there we're going to get? Yeah? Yeah? We got... Sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry. There you go. Boom, boom. All right. Yeah, don't worry. We'll get it all once we get up and running. We'll be absolutely fine. This is the most ever.
What's all the extra signing about this something?
I think your signing today might have helped.
It's not a signing.
Sorry, yes. Agreement, yes, that's true. Yeah, no, I think it was a sellout today, so it's the first time we've sold all the tickets. So, yeah, we're in the travel now, so we'll just literally be a minute away. So. Good evening, everybody. I'm Johnny Cantor. Welcome to the Albion Fans Forum, live on BBC Sussex and the club's YouTube channel. We're live at the Amex, and it's certainly been an eventful 48 hours for the club with some nice signings and a few agreements in there as well. I'm sure we're going to be talking about that this evening. But what a 48 hours we've got to look forward to as well as Manchester City come here to Sussex this weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Albion's first ever Premier League Fans Forum. Yeah, let's hope it's the first of many. Let's first, they don't need any introduction, but I've got to do this, you know. The Seagulls manager, Chris Hughton. Chief Executive, Paul Barber. And the Albion Chairman, Tony Bloom. Yes, and this is the fans' opportunity to pose some questions to the people that run this football club. We have Catherine and Tim who are out there in the crowd. If they can make themselves known to each other, they have a microphone and they're ready to use it. So do put your hand up, ask your question, do say who you are, where you're from, and of course who your question is targeted to. We're live right through till 8 o'clock, so plenty of time. Don't be bashful. Get involved. We do have some on the email as well, but of course we want to give you, the people that have made the effort, to come down here and get involved as quickly as possible. So I'm not going to say any more. I'm going to hand it over to you. Let's have some hands in the air and let's see whether we can Okay, we've got first question right over the far side on the left there with Catherine.
Good evening, thanks for this opportunity. I'm Pete from Worthing. With the Premier League introducing shirt sleeve sponsors, have we got one? And have you got any more information about it at all?
No and no. Premier League shirt sleeve sponsors are a difficult one because there's a lot of categories that we can't work with for various reasons because of our various other contracts. So at the moment we're still talking to 2 different companies. There's no immediate rush to do it. I think there's only 3 Premier League clubs so far that have actually signed up their shirt sleeve sponsors. So we'll keep working on it. It's one of those things, like the transfer window, will probably go to the wire.
Okay, lovely first question. Right, let's have it over to the far on the right with Tim.
Yes, good evening. It's David Foster, season ticket holder from Seaford. This question is probably for Paul. About the transfer market, we've all seen recently the amount that a club will pay for a player, which is getting ridiculous, like £200 million. How does the club put a money value on a player and then make a decision to buy that player? And why is that info sometimes kept a secret, re what the club have paid, e.g. undisclosed terms?
Well, I'll let the chairman answer the first question, but let me just take the second part of it first. I mean, sometimes it's just purely because we don't want to give our competitors an idea of what our budgets are, what we're prepared to pay in the market. Sometimes it's because the selling club don't want those terms disclosed because they very often then have to go and replace that player, and therefore it gives their competitors or the people they want to buy from an idea of what they've got in their pockets to spend. And sometimes it's just purely commercially sensitive information for both sides, and we don't disclose it. And I think you'll find that more often than not now, a lot of the deals are quite complex, and the clubs will just simply want to keep the details private. Okay. Tony, do you want to talk about how we value players? How you value players?
Well, certainly the transfer market is one of those very interesting and quirky things which football has and not many other sports, if any do have. In terms of the market this summer, I think it took most people, if not all of us, by surprise about how much the hyperinflation has happened. We have to get on with it. We early on in the window realised it was happening by 2 or 3 extremely big transfer fees relative to what we as a club would value those players for. So we can't change the market. What we're always looking to do is bring in the best possible players for Chris and our playing squad, given what the market is, given what positions we need. And there's sometimes a mixture of loans, sometimes some older players on lower transfer fees or players out of contract. We sometimes invest in some younger ones who may be what we believe are ready now for the Premier League, but we hope will be a lot better in the future. So in terms of transfer fees, if they are younger players, we would be looking for the value of those players to increase over the period that they're at the club, and at that point they may get sold at some point, or we may keep them. Obviously, some of the older players where we have transfer fees, the way we look at it is the value at the end of their contract. It may have gone down to 0. So it's quite a complicated situation, sometimes weighing up the transfer and the cost of the transfer and amortisation over the period of their contract, and also the players' wages. And those are the 2 main things that we always have to weigh up. And I'm very happy so far with the transfer business we've done. I'm sure Chris will speak more about the individual players, and we've got 2.5 weeks more until the end of the window.
Well, let's quickly bring into Chris, because I know agreement was made on a major signing today. I know it's quite over the line yet, but do you want to just talk a little bit about Jose or Jose, whichever way you want to pronounce it?
Am I allowed to?
Yeah,
yes, I am.
A little bit. Okay.
Well, as in most signings that we make, we would have done a substantial amount of work. Occasionally, sometimes something happens where a player becomes available that you don't think would have come available. But we've done a fair amount of work on him. We know the abilities that he's got. We have a very good recruitment staff. Not only those that go out on the road, but of course those that are watching tons and tons of videos week in, week out. So certainly we know him very much as a player, and when the opportunity came about for us to possibly bring him here, then it was one that we jumped at. A very exciting, wide player. I think probably the best way to speak about him would be that as a forward player, because although predominantly plays on that left-hand side, right footer plays on that left-hand side, I think he has the potential probably to play across the front anywhere, certainly on that right-hand side as well. But very quick, has got a very good goal record, which is important, particularly as he's not an out-and-out striker. Very good goal record over the last few years, and certainly one that we hope can enhance what we've already got.
Johnny, just to add on that in terms of the process, so the player has got to have a visa to come to the UK for his medical, so that's the first part of the process. The medical, we hope, will take place tomorrow, and then once the medical's taken place, he's then got to attend a hearing for his work permit. And so these things aren't foregone conclusions, and in normal circumstances we wouldn't have announced what we announced today, but unfortunately I think our friends in Belgium got a little bit excited and put us in a position where we would have looked pretty silly all day today saying no comment, particularly as there were pictures flying around and all kinds. But it is a process that we take very seriously, and we have to respect, because it's not a foregone conclusion by any means, but we're hopeful.
Lovely, thanks. Hope that answered your question, David. 7 minutes past 7, you're listening to BBC Sussex. We're live on the Brighton and Hove Albion YouTube channel as well. We're doing a fans forum tonight, and we've got more questions. Let's head back to the far left-hand side.
Hi, this is a message for Chris. Has there been anything that you've learnt from the last time that you brought a club up from the Championship to the Premier League? Anything that you think you'll do slightly different? And also, how do you approach a season like this? Would you say there's even less pressure this season because of kind of where we're going into, that rather than last year where people expected us to kind of be right up there challenging for promotion, which we did, of course?
Well, it's a very good question, and I have been in this division in 2 occasions, one of course at Newcastle and then 2 years at Norwich. The obvious one, what I think has changed, I think at the top end, I think there's better quality, and if you look at the way that your Manchester Uniteds and Man Cities and your Chelseas are recruiting, then they are recruiting now world-class players. So certainly at that top level, it has changed. I think probably what hasn't changed too much is there will always be a group of teams in this division that in a bad season can go down, and that would be probably a fairly big group of teams, and what we have to make sure and do is we have to make sure that we're in amongst that group of teams, fighting it and hoping to finish in a good position amongst that group. It's certainly as competitive as what it has always been, and if anything, probably there are some better examples in recent years of teams that have gone up to the Premier League and stayed there, and the stats are actually quite good, and what we've got to make sure and do is be amongst them stats. As a group and as a way of playing, this club has fought long and hard enough to get in this division, so we may as well have a good go at it. And what we don't want is any regrets at the end of the season that we wasn't positive enough going into games or so. What the team and what everybody, including yourselves, have got to get used to is we've won a lot of games over the last couple of seasons, and it's not something detrimental to say that, but we won't win as many games this season, and it's part and parcel of where we are in this division, and it's better going in the division with that thought process. And what you've got to be able to do is that after a defeat, you've got to be able to park that and look forward to the next one and give yourself the best opportunity of winning that next game.
Lovely, great question. Just down here at the front on the right-hand side, row 3.
Hi, I'm Chris from Worthing, and before I ask my question, I just want to say thank you to all the gentlemen at the front for, well, frankly, making our dreams come true. So you have done that, and not just on your own, of course. The playing staff, fantastic. In fact, everybody at this club, and I want to thank you, Tony, for recognising that and rewarding everybody at the club. That's what sets this club apart from all the rest. It really does. My question, though, is about the spirit. The spirit we've had at this club for a long while now, but particularly the last 2 years. Bitterly disappointing a year ago. Wonderfully amazing the year we've just closed. How do we keep that going? And when you look for players, Chris, how much consideration do you give to them fitting into that team spirit alongside their skill with the ball at their feet?
Well, I think there's two parts. If I speak about the second part first, in any recruitment that we make, any player that we bring in, that there are never any guarantees regarding his personality or so. All we can do is do as much homework as possible. Where we have been fortunate is that we've brought a lot of players into this club that we see and feel are the right type for this football club and the right type for the team. Good individuals, you know, whether that's players at the latter part of their careers that not a point to prove, but have been really good professionals and want to show that professionalism to everybody else and want to be a real good example to the young ones, or younger players that are striving to be consistent members of the team. So I think we've been quite fortunate with the group that we've brought in, and they've bought into everything that we've done. There was a tremendous response this last season to a disappointment, but I expected it. I knew that I had a group of players that would be motivated, and all we needed to do was get off to, I think, a good start, and that would motivate everybody else even more. So I think from a personality point of view, as regards to players, we've I think recruited very well. As regards the spirit of the club, it's obviously something that I walked into. I remember speaking here last year and the season before, and it was a difficult time when I came to the club, but it didn't feel a difficult time. So for as much as I can speak about the contribution of either myself or the playing staff, I think there is a spirit at this club that runs deeper than that. And of course, the large majority of that was before my time. But generally, when that's the case, that spirit never leaves you.
Thanks, Chris. Great start, guys. So coming up to 7:15, let's head back to Catherine over there. Do keep your hand up. We'll come to you next if we can, just out in the front. Let's head back there to that lady there.
Mina from Brighton. I've got a little message for Tony. Thank you so much for buying a Dutch player. I'm really, really happy about that. And it's got a good name to pronounce as well, so that shouldn't be too hard. And apologies to Paul for going on the pitch on in April, but it had to be done.
I've had about 27,000 apologies so far.
Yeah, I bet you have. Chris, I've got a question for you. With all the new signings, does that mean quite a lot of the seasoned players will go on loan again, some of them, like Lua, Rowan Inns? Will they go on loan again, or will they stay?
Yes, probably. I think I think it comes with the territory. It comes with developing as a team and as a squad. And you know, what you have seen, of course, are new players coming in. The reason why they come in is because we feel that they can improve what we have in the squad. And of course, along that pathway as such, there are always going to be players that haven't featured as much as what they would have liked to have done. So yes, we expect to see some players going out on loan, and them loan periods, or for any club, any player that leaves, you know, that's for, of course, two benefits. You know, mostly theirs, because it gives them an opportunity to go elsewhere and play regular football, or whether that's on loan or a sale, and it gives them an opportunity to start their careers again. So, and of course, it also allows us to really concentrate on the squad that we've got. So yes, we do expect to see some going out.
Okay, lovely. Let's head back over to the far side with Tim.
Hi, my name's Paul from Brighton. Sorry, Tony and Paul, but this question's for Chris as well. Since you've been at the club, Chris, I noticed that every time that the opposition have a corner or a free kick on the edge of the area, you never seem to leave a player forward. Is there a reason why you do this? One example last season, which I remember quite well, was Aston Villa at home. The last 10 minutes, we seemed to be quite under a lot of pressure. Is there a reason you do this, and is it something you might consider changing?
Well, I'll answer the last bit first. No, I shan't be changing. I think as regards defending corners, set plays or attacking, I think if you go through most teams, you could pick out 10 teams in a division that do things different. You know, some will defend in corners, some will zonal mark, some will have one on the back post, some will, and in the end, it's always about a preference. And so certainly my preference has been, when defending corners and defending wide free kicks, to give ourselves the best possible opportunity of not conceding. And you can do that two ways. One, by having the extra player back, by leaving one player up. What that sometimes does is it's on a second phase. So for those that perhaps don't understand, it's when a corner is taken and a corner is attempted header, and the ball gets cleared out. Well, once that ball comes back in again, that's the second phase. So if you leave a player up, sometimes that stops that second phase. And it's always a question of preference. And my preference has always been to make sure to defend that first phase first.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. I'm just going to read one out from an email because it came in about 2 months ago. So it was the first one we received, so I'm going to do it. It's from Mark, who is a season ticket holder. Really for Tony and Paul, I think. With the long waiting list for season tickets, is there any way that the Amex capacity can be increased to accommodate these people in the near future?
Martin Perry's in the audience and he's shaking his head.
That's a no.
I always look to Martin for that. No, I mean, there's not really much room. I mean, we've got a little bit of perhaps an opportunity at the north end of the stadium, not to put a second tier on, sorry, but maybe to add one or two more facilities at that end, similar to what we've got at the south end. But beyond that, we're pretty much where we are. And I think it's a great size stadium for the size of our club and the size of our city.
Lovely. Thanks very much indeed. Okay, let's head down just to the front here. This lady here.
Hello, my name's Wendy, I'm from Eastbourne. First of all, this is your question to Tony. A big thank you for what you've done for our wonderful club. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Are you looking to bring any more players in this season, or...?
Tony, you were softened up.
Yeah, there's the killer blow.
Sorry.
Thank you so much for those words, Wendy. And it really is a team effort from the day that I became chairman. And you know, we've worked so hard to become a Premier League team, and it's great to say it, and I'd like to repeat it a few times over the next 50 minutes, I hope. And obviously Chris and the players have done it on the pitch, but it is very much a team effort from everyone at the club. And that's why that we did bring in 2 years ago a bonus system where everyone at the club would be rewarded if we got to the Premier League. In terms of new players, we've brought in quite a few new players so far, but we haven't stopped, and hopefully there will be at least 1 or 2 more by the end of August.
Okay, lovely. Far side on the right.
Good evening, my name's Dan from the North Stand Collective, so you can probably guess what my question is going to be. Just wondering what the current club thoughts and activities are around safe standing.
Not too much, I'm afraid. I mean, the Premier League just don't allow it. So, you know, from that point of view, there's not really much more we can do. From our club's perspective, to be honest, the reaction was quite lukewarm. It wasn't an overwhelming majority of people that wanted to do it. In fact, you know, quite the opposite in that respect. But we've got an open mind, and we've always said that we'll keep our minds open. And if the law changes, if the permissions change and the Premier League allow it, then it's certainly something we would look at. But it would be on a very limited basis, based on the reaction we had, you know, for the work that we did last year.
Okay, lovely. Okay, Catherine's right at the back. Sorry, I missed you there.
Oops. Evening all, Darren from Brighton. I've got a question for Chris, please. In the few days after we secured promotion, Chris, in April, did you get the right needle with the players that went on the 3-week bender? My boss did. Got the right one.
Well, one thing I can sincerely tell you is that obviously it was a wonderful achievement here, and of course we found that out I think an hour after our game here against Wigan, which was, I say, a wonderful achievement. Probably it took me a week after the end of the season. Probably took me a week after the end of the season to get over the disappointment of not winning the title, and that's the professional side of everything that we do. Myself and of course our staff want to win every game, and certainly after after we'd got promotion, the Norwich game, I think, only being some 4 days afterwards. Although it was 2 sort of fortuitous goals, you know, is probably expected a little bit, but really disappointed that we wasn't able to do it in them 2 games. So yes, it probably took me a week after the season just to calm down a little bit and get rid of that disappointment. But certainly what soon comes flooding back with the amount of work that you have to do, and some of the work that we've spoke about already tonight with new players and getting the players ready for this new season, that certainly takes over. As for the players, they were all in very, very good shape when they came back first hour pre-season.
Okay, let's head up the central aisle.
Okay, Nick from Brighton. For Chris, this one again. Sorry, Chris. As we are likely to be playing a form of 4-5-1 this season, is our hunt for a striker or strikers likely to concentrate on another big target man or a player to play off a target man? In either case, how much is pace up front an essential ingredient in our plans?
Interesting question, yes. I can only go back if we're talking about formations first, and for all of you here that would have, of course, seen us over my period of time here, I've generally gone with a form of 4-4-2 or 4-4-1-1. Certainly in the Premier League, it is more difficult to consistently play 4-4-2. Certainly that doesn't mean that I wouldn't play it, but it is a little bit more difficult to play that way consistently. So yes, I think we have to, as a team and a group of players, have to have some flexibility in the way that that we want to play. What you also see throughout the divisions, but particularly in the Premier League, more teams now opting to play 3 at the back. And the reason why they're opting to play 3 at the back, because it allows you to play 2 players up front. So we will be up against a team on Saturday which have used that in their 4 last pre-season games, have played a back 3. So we are and have to be open to that as well. But in your question as regards that pace up front, then I think what you have to have, if you don't have that pace in a central area, then certainly what you have to have is you have to have a pace along the flanks. Because what you will see, you'll see a lot of teams that will play a traditional target man, but will have runners that are able to run from midfield or from the flanks. So is it valuable to have a number 9 that can run behind? Yes, it is. They are sometimes the most difficult and the most expensive to get because of the quality. But certainly it would be beneficial to have that type of player.
Okay, I'm going to come down to the front row just a second. One question that's come from a lot of people, actually, so I will ask the question, is to give Chris a rest as well. Is the club intending to resurrect plans for the hotel at the Amex? It's one that I think probably 8 or so different people have asked me to ask.
Well, our priority this summer has been getting the stadium ready and getting it all the way through this lovely Premier League handbook here, 700 pages of it, and that's what's kept Martin busy. So we gave a presentation to all our staff in the past couple of weeks, and one of the slides was, what's Martin Perry been up to? Which is a question that a lot of people ask on a very regular basis, I can tell you. But if you look outside, if you get a chance before you go home tonight, you'll see a ton of work around the stadium, not least a new TV studio over in the southeast corner, a new restaurant in the east stand, a new TV gantry just out here. You won't see the hard wiring, but the whole stadium's been hardwired, and countless other things. So Martin's been a bit busy, but the hotel is not off our agenda. It's just a little bit down the list at the moment.
That's strange. I thought he was cycling the South Downs last time I heard. Anyway, right, let's head down here on the near side.
Hello, I'm John from Molescombe in Saunders Park. I'd like to thank the panel and the club for a fantastic victory parade on the 14th of May. And also, I'd like to ask Chris a question on the Colombian man on visas and work permits. Does it take a long time to come? Will he be allowed to play on Saturday?
I think that's probably a question for Paul, actually.
Unfortunately, he won't be able to play on Saturday, as much as it would be great if he was able. But the work permit hearing will probably be next Wednesday. And usually you find out within the same 24-hour period after that. So hopefully if we get positive news, then he will be free for us to bring into a squad when Chris is ready, sometime after next Wednesday or Thursday, all being well. But we've got to get through the process first.
In order to claim a work permit, you have to have a certain amount of international appearances that you will...
It's a very, very detailed criteria that is one element of it, but it also includes, where he's come from, how many first-team games he's played, how many goals he's scored, what kind of player he was in the league he was in, was he one of the top players, how much was the transfer fee, what does he earn? It covers a whole range of criteria. We also have to produce a very detailed presentation for the panel to consider, and that has to extol the virtues of the player, why we want him, why we feel he's the best player for the job. So it will be quite a big presentation that we do next Wednesday to convince the panel that we should be able to bring this player in.
Yeah.
Okay. Lovely. Good question. Thanks very much indeed. Just heading up towards 7:30. We're live on BBC Sussex and on Brighton and Hove Albion's YouTube channel if you want to stay tuned to us for the next half hour or so. We're taking questions from the floor. Let's head right up to the top of the central aisle.
Hi, it's Tom from Burgess Hill. Just, I suppose it's for everyone. The step up to the Premier League's a big one. So is there anything that's taken each of you by surprise by making that big step up?
Tony, do you want to kick things off?
Well, we've waited this long to get to the Premier League. We haven't had too many surprises yet, but we haven't played a game yet. I think in terms of staffing, there hasn't been too much change, because if anything, there's going to be potentially less games this season, or certainly obviously less league games. We could have a cup run, you never know. I think we have hired some senior staff in a few different areas. Like in the commercial area, the media side of things, and the people that we've been recruiting over the last couple of months have been ones primarily who've got Premier League experience, because obviously a lot of our staff don't have that. And I would say I haven't been around over the course of the summer here in Brighton very much, but I think the biggest difference for the club and certainly for Chris and the coaching staff, and particularly the players, is the media side, because the Premier League is so big. The amounts of requests they get are a lot more than they've had last season. Chris, obviously, very experienced with it. He's had 2 or 3 seasons in the Premier League before, and potentially even compared to when he was last there, it's probably stepped up a level. So I think as a club, that's going to be our biggest challenge, and for not to allow it to affect all the preparation, what goes out on the pitch. But I think we're aware of it and hopefully well prepared for it, and hopefully it's going fine. Chris, maybe to comment more on that.
Probably on two things. One, yes, as our chairman has said, the media requests have already since the first hour pre-season have been significantly more, not only on myself but of course on the players and the individual players. So that's something, of course, that they welcome and of course have got used to. Probably the nice part, certainly from a managerial and a coaching point of view, is when the fixtures came out, and it's nice to see. I know some, of course, have changed, but it's nice to see games on a Saturday, which gives us great preparation time going into the games at the weekend. And of course, what we've been used to for a good few seasons now are quite a significant amount of midweek games. So that's a nice part, which is one that we'll very gladly get used to. But probably, as the chairman said, the media part, which has become massive.
And Paul, anything surprised you?
Yeah, I think I would echo that. I think if you look at the TV audience that we're going to have for Saturday, I think a rough calculation, it's probably going to be not just the largest single TV audience in the club's history, but the largest single TV audience in the club's history versus every live game we've ever had put together, literally. And that will give you an idea of the scale. The match is going to be live across the UK, the United States, across India, across most of Asia, across most of the major continents of the world. And if you add that combined audience up and then add up all of our previous live games that were essentially UK based and obviously mainly championship games with a few cup games, it is quite something. And again, from a TV camera point of view, normally for a championship live game you might have 6, 7, 8 cameras in the stadium. On Saturday evening we're going to have 33 cameras capturing the action. So a different world that we're now in, and we've been saying it obviously over many years leading up to this, that the step up is massive on the pitch, but off the pitch it's absolutely enormous. And credit to Martin and Derek Chapman and Laura and Mark Hooper, the guys behind the scenes that have worked to get the stadium in the condition it's in for this massive kick-off on Saturday. But it's going to be a very big day for the club and a momentous day in the club's history.
Lovely, thank you, gents, for those answers. Okay, let's head back to Catherine.
Hi, James from Brighton. My question's for all three of you, really. We've had lots of visions and goals as a club and fans over the last 20-odd years. The stadium, we've got it, the championship, we got there, we were challenging, and now the Premier League, and we're finally here. What is the vision now for this club? Is it survival? Is it consolidating? Or is it more than that? Where do you see the future of our fantastic club?
Thank you. That's a very good question. It's not the easiest question to answer. Obviously, every single season while we're in the Premier League, we have one major goal, and that is the following season to be in the Premier League. And even if we're here for 5 or 10 years continuously, that will still be our goal. There may be 6 clubs have different first goals. There may be 1 or 2 who perhaps could argue with that, but I think there's just 6 clubs and they're in a different league financially and just as a club. Beyond that, we want to always entertain, play good football, win as many games as we can, and obviously we want to do more than just survive, but it's just unarguable that the first thing is to make sure we're in the top 17. And it's a very realistic goal each season. We will, like this time last season, I stated that I think we've got a squad of players. We've got every chance of finishing top 2. I said it wasn't going to be easy because there's a lot of very good teams in the Championship, but we did it, and we deservedly did it, and we did it brilliantly with 3 games to go. This season, I will publicly say I think we have got a squad, and certainly by the end of August, that has got a very realistic chance of finishing at least top 17. First season, we will be delighted with any kind of survival, but I think we can do better. It won't be easy. You just look around, you can see those other Premier League teams, they're all very, very strong. When you're in the Premier League and you're outside the top 6, all you can hope for is to perhaps one season have a particularly good season and perhaps finish top 10. Some clubs finish top 6, even some top 4. And you had a freak the other season where one of them won the league by 10 points. I don't think that will happen again in any of our lifetime, something like that. But it can happen, it's sport, and that's what makes it so exciting. And on top of that, we can always dream about having a very good cup run as well. But there's no doubt that survival and making sure this time next year in the Premier League is always got to be our priority.
Lovely, great question. I don't know, lots of people emailed something very similar about the 5 and 10 year plan, so thank you for covering that one off as well. Right, let's head right to the back.
Hi there, it's Aaron from Brighton. A question for probably Paul and Tony about the academy. It's been set up now for a number of years, and it seems recruitment has accelerated over the past couple of weeks, and we've brought in some players, and time will tell if they're good or not. How do you feel the academy has performed against your expectations up to this point, and what do you see the vision being for the next 3 to 5 years, and what results do you expect to be provided from there?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, the academy is a very important part of the football club. I mean, our goal, our vision, our dream would be for as many players to come through the academy and into our first team squad. It's very difficult to do, particularly if you're in the Premier League. It's difficult enough in the Championship, but that's a goal. Naturally, and it's the same at all academies, a lot of kids will be let go at various stages, and not many of them will make it through to our first team squad. What we believe in for the boys coming through, it's not just about them getting to our first team squad. It's just about the whole experience and their education. We feel it's really important that the likelihood is when they start up in the academy that they won't make it even in professional football. That's just the way the statistics are. So we make sure that they have a lot of good experiences. Their education is very important to us, and the grades that the boys get is better than the national average. So there's lots of things, but it's a very important part of the ethos of the club. And it's not just about the boys, from 8, 9, 10 years old, which are coming through. We obviously, at various points, we recruit. We always look to recruit as best as we can, like we do in the first team squad, and to make our academy even stronger. And it's particularly sort of around the 16 to 20-year-olds where we can much easier for us to bring in players from around the country and sometimes from abroad as well. In terms of how we're doing so far, it's very early stages. I mean, a lot of academies have been going for 10, 20, 30 years. So it's in terms of evaluating how it's going, and we do an evaluation each year, but really it's probably in 5 to 10 years we can truly evaluate the performance of how it is, because a lot of our kids, starting the academy, at 8, 9, 10, perhaps 3 years ago, so it could take a long time for those ones who started to come through and hopefully get into our first team. But it's certainly a big goal for a lot of the for the British players in our first team squad. We would very much like as many of them possible to be homegrown, but at the end of the day they have to be good enough for Chris's squad, and it's a very, very high bar.
Just a word on results there. Sorry, I mean, I know supporters, every time a team puts on blue and white stripes, you want to win, but we don't look too much at results in the academy. Certainly in the younger age groups, we're developing young players. We're looking to bring them on. You might find in any given week that one of the younger teams has got a younger squad than the team they're up against, and therefore the result might not necessarily reflect the strength of our age group at that particular level. It might actually reflect even better on us because our younger boys are competing against an older group. Likewise, if you're looking at the under-23 results or the under-18 results, Chris and John Morley might have sanctioned some of our best young under-23 players to go out on loan during a particular period, which might give us a younger under-23 squad against another club's much stronger and older under-23 squad. So you really shouldn't read too much into results of academy teams on the whole. Obviously, we'd love to win every game. We certainly want to be competitive every game, but the results aren't necessarily the most important thing to us.
Chris, did you want to add something on the academy?
Yeah, just touching on what the chairman said. We are still quite a young academy, particularly Category 1 status. But the wonderful thing about the facility that we have, the training facility, is that the first team, the under-23s, the under-18s, are all in the same building. We train very close to each other, so there'll be lots of opportunities where we'll see them train. Our senior players take a great interest in the younger players. So as regards any pathways from our younger players eventually through to the first team, first and foremost, they've got to be good enough. But they've also got to be given the tools to be able to make that pathway happen. And the good thing is that they're around good individuals every day. And so even the first team players take a very, very keen interest in what the academy does and the players that are coming through.
Great. Question just down here in the central aisle.
Hello, it's Katharina from Burgess Hill. Just want to say thank you to everybody for everything that you've done to help me get to football this year and what you did for me at Christmas. It was absolutely wonderful. It's going to be a brilliant year, and the way we took Atletico to the wire on Sunday, bring Man City on, not a problem. I've got a question for Mr. Barber. Now we're a very, very big club. Will I have to eat prawn sandwiches at half-time? Or will the chicken pie still be available?
Well, I knew that when Katerina was going to ask a question, it was always going to be a difficult one. But this year, it's an easy one because the pie is very much still on the menu. No prawn sandwiches for you, Katerina. Your pie will be ready for you, as usual, at the weekend.
Is there anything new that fans will experience this season, that maybe not just here, but any changes that they may experience in terms of the visiting the Amex across the next 10 months, Paul?
I think the opposition.
Yeah, I was thinking off the pitch, but you're probably right. That's probably the main focus. Okay, so right at the back on the left there with Tim.
Hi, I'm Mick from Southwick. I'd just like to ask the panel, would they name what they think will be the top three in the Premier League and the bottom three come the end of the Premier League?
Ooh, there you go.
It's got to be the manager first, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly think that the bottom three will be harder to predict than the top three. So I'll probably give you the top six, actually. But certainly our visitors here on Saturday, I fully expect them to be right up there. What we are graced in this division is are certainly a group of teams that are in effect really Champions League level teams, and I think we're graced with that in this division, and I think certainly the likes of Manchester City, Manchester United, your Chelseas, Arsenal's, your Tottenhams, I think they're going to be wonderful to watch. They'll be wonderful for you to watch. We've waited long and hard for this opportunity now to be able to bring these teams down to this wonderful stadium, and I think it would be wonderful to see them. So that's what I think around about that top six. Sorry, can't help you with the bottom three.
Go on then, Tony.
Okay, it's a bit early to say. We haven't seen all the transfers. There's a lot of speculation, but I'm going to go with the northern teams in any order of Man United, Man City and Liverpool, top three, and the bottom three is ABB, anyone but Brighton.
I think that one hits that one squarely on the head. Well done. Back onto the left-hand side.
Hi, Sunny from Lebanon. First of all, thank you so much for the promotion, the historic promotion that will live forever in my heart and everyone's hearts here. It was just, I still can't, I'm still lost for words, and thank you so much, all of you. This one's to Chris. I just wanted to ask, Pascal Gross is an amazing, technically gifted, creative attacking mid. Can we expect him anywhere else, or will he only be playing in that role? Could we expect him maybe in centre mid alongside Stevens or Proper until Kyle's back?
Well, it's a good question, and you obviously know your football, and you obviously know Pascal. What he is, he's got a lot of flexibility in where he has played before, and if I looked at if I looked at this season, we spoke about formations. The team that he was playing for, Ingolstadt's, played a very similar formation to Chelsea last season. Three across the back, 4 in midfield and 3 up front. And the player, of course, at Chelsea that played in that position would have been either William or the one from Barcelona. The player from Barcelona, Pedro, would have played in that position. A completely different player, okay, of course, to what Pascal is, but he would have played right of a 3. We've seen him play in centre midfield, in a 2 in midfield. We've seen him play in a similar position that he's been playing for us in these pre-season games. So there is flexibility in the way that he plays. At this moment, I see him very much as an advanced midfield player in the role that he's been playing for me in pre-season. But I know he is an adaptable player that can play in a few positions, and he's a player that's settled in very, very well for us.
Great footballing question there. Let's head over to the side.
Hi, good evening. Cole from Brighton, season ticket holder. Do you have a question regarding the younger players, where the change of tactic this year of signing players to loan straight out? Just regarding when they're out on loan, then we've got we said we must be 3 that have come in as foreigners, plus is it 5, Jordan and Lincoln and the 2 lads that went to Accrington. Who looks at them? What is it, a daily basis, a game basis, monthly? I just wonder what, they just left, obviously I'm not, back in the day when they'd just be left out on loan. But nowadays it's more of a tactical tool to use them to develop. I just wonder how it's looked at and what the process is really. Yeah.
Well, any player. I mean, I think what we are aiming and have to do at this football club is to have variety in what we do, and that's of course, we spoke about the academy here, and certainly we want to see as many players coming through the academy system as possible. But what we also have to do, we have to supply the first team, and sometimes that's with players that are going to be ready-made players that are going to go straight into that first team or first team squad. But there are also going to be younger players that are going to be around that first team squad looking for an opportunity to develop. Now, whether that development phase is again with that first team or is out on loan. So that's the broader spectrum. As regards the players that go out on loan, is that yes, we would have reports on every game that they would have played while they're on loan. It's a system that some clubs use, far more than what we do, and it's a system that some clubs actually have a member of staff that in effect just looks after the players that are out on loan, and that would be some clubs that bring in a significant amount of young players and say use their development either with them or also out on loan. We don't have that many, and I don't ever see us having that many, but certainly we would have reports on every game. The opportunity, of course, for them to come back, we had that with Christian Walton when he went on loan last season, where he would come back occasionally and train with us. So he's not out of this environment for the whole of the period of time that he's there. So we try to make it as comfortable as possible, but any loan period is for dual purpose. It's for us to see their development, and of course for them to be able to develop as well.
Okay, 10 minutes. We've got 10 more minutes to get your questions into the panel, which is the Brighton and Hove Albion chairman Tony Bloom, chief executive Paul Barber, and the manager Chris Hughton. If you're listening on BBC Sussex, it's a fans forum coming live from the Amex. We're also live on the club's YouTube channel. So 10 more minutes. So get your hands up, keep them coming. Just on this left-hand side.
I'm Ian from Worthing. This is probably a question for Paul. This may be fake news, Paul, but I read a couple of weeks ago a report about Tottenham being the first Premier club to gain a concession that they could drink in the concourse after the game. Is that true across the Prem, or is it fake news? And if so, partly being selfish, my worries about health and safety if we're all trying to get onto Falmer Station because we can't go for a drink.
Sorry, the question, drink on the concourse after?
On the concourse after a game in the Premier League.
But they can't or they can?
They can't they can't. Premier clubs can't serve drinks in the concourse after a game. Tottenham apparently were the first Premier club to gain a concession.
It's not something we're aware of. I would imagine it would be down to every individual Premier League club's licensing rules and regulations and their own ground regulations, but it's certainly not a problem for us, and everyone's welcome in the North Stand after the game on Saturday.
All right, the beers are on Paul on Saturday. Over on the near side.
Hello, my name's Andrew from Lancing. I'm just wondering how important it is for you, Chris, to obviously take the team up to try and take revenge on Crystal Palace this season, and where the fixture ranks among the elite.
Well, I suppose I'm very, very aware of the rivalry, of course, between the two clubs. It's normal, it's natural, and it's very much a part of football. But certainly that's not my biggest priority this season. My biggest priority is to make sure that if we are to get results, it's because we're playing well enough and are a good enough team to make sure that we get the results against anybody, and that's. What I do sometimes stress is that a good result sometimes, because we have to be like this, amongst what we are as a group of players, is a good performance away at one of the top clubs where the performance has been good, but we haven't perhaps got the win or the draw that we wanted to. But you can get plenty from the game to take into the following game as such. So we're very conscious of that. I'm aware of rivalries, but certainly that's not the biggest priority. But we want to win as many games as possible.
Okay, time for a couple more. Let's back to Catherine.
Hello, Steve from Ashington here. Chris, a question for you. I'm interested to know what your approach will be to cup games this season. When you look across the Premier League, a lot of times they'd like to play their second 11 rather than putting forward their best side. What's your intentions? I mean, clearly we want to stay up in the Premier League, but what are your thoughts around the cup matches?
I think we're a little bit fortunate this season again because we don't have the volume of league games that we've had, of course, the last few seasons. But certainly as regards the way that I've mixed the team up. So firstly, it's about putting a team out that we feel that can win the game. Would I have a preference to make changes? Yes, I would. And partly that's because of the squad that we have. I'd like to think that by the time the window closes on any players that are outside of that, perhaps that 11 that have played the week before, that our quality levels are better than what they've been, last season, the season before, and going on. So what it does do, the opportunity for some, not all, to play in the cup games gives value to the squad. Keeps that togetherness in the squad, and certainly I would never field a team that I felt wasn't good enough to win the game. But would my preference be to use the squad in the cup games? Then yes, it would be.
Okay, quickly, let's try and grab a few more before we go off air. Just down on here.
Hello. I just wondered what, as a progressive club in a progressive city, what the club's stance was on perhaps following Lewis's example of equal playing budgets for both women's and men's teams.
Yeah, that's a good question. Unfortunately, at the moment, the women's game commercially is nowhere near the men's game. And like any business model, you've got to generate income in order to meet your outgoings. So at the moment, the men's game is a long way ahead of the women's game in that regard. So it's very difficult to equalise pay. But certainly looking ahead, looking to the future, we're very, very keen to grow our women's football and girls' football area. We've invested, as you've seen recently, in a new head coach, Hope Powers, the former England manager. We've got ambitions of playing in WSL 1. We want to continue to promote the women and girls game as much as we can, and there's a first step in everything, and we've taken a big first step in moving women and girls football to be an integral part of our club.
Okay, I think we've got time for probably two more. One over here, and then we'll go back over that side. Go on.
Hello, good evening. Adam from Brighton. The TV rights deal for the Premier League is up for renewal later this year. Obviously, all that money coming into the game for the Premier League is great for us this season, but is there an actual personal opinion from Paul and Tony on how far it goes and whether maybe in the next decade the likes of Sky drop out of it and we have Amazon, we have Disney coming in, and what's your just personal opinion on the amount of money in the top league not filtering down to the Championship where we used to be and the rest of the Football League?
Do we take that? You go. Go on.
Well, there's no doubt that the disparity between the Premier League and the Championship is absolutely huge, and for many years it was very much against us because we always were competing in the Championship against 7, 8, 9, 10 clubs with parachute payments, which is on one level unfair, but a lot of things in football are unfair, a lot of things in life are unfair. The Premier League get huge revenues. That's because they've done an amazing job commercially for fans all over the world. They've got an amazing product and people are prepared to pay it. Last season was the first season of the new deal, so we've got 2 more seasons at this level, and you're right, in about 6 months' time they go to market again. I think the big inflation in the Premier League revenues is probably plateauing, and I personally can't see it going up very much in the foreseeable future, but who knows, these things are quite unpredictable, and there is a possibility that they come down in the future. You know, who knows whether Sky and BT will still be at the table, and they may go up again. There may be other competitors out there, the likes of Amazon, for example. For us as a club, we know well in advance what the revenues are, so when we're in the Premier League, it's very easy. You know, the sums are so huge, for us we can budget, and for the first time in a very long time, this coming season, we will be profitable, which is a very nice thing to say.
Okay, we're running out of time, unfortunately. Great, thank you very much, Tony. Just a quick word, just from all three. I just want to say before we say goodbye here on BBC Sussex and on the club's website, I just want to finish this with Alan, and just your feelings very quickly, because we've only got about a minute and a half left. He wanted to know, how much sleep do you expect to get on Friday night before the big day dawns? 1, 2, 3, we want a number from each of you.
Not very much, a couple of hours probably.
Yeah. Chris?
Probably about 6 hours.
6 hours. Tony?
I'm hoping for a nice 8-hour relaxing sleep.
He's so cool, isn't he? Thank you very much, everyone, for your wonderful questions. Sorry you didn't get time to get to everybody. You can maybe be able to just grab them afterwards and maybe ask them a question as well. Thanks very much. It's been a really, really great night. Some wonderful topics and very well answered. Finally, I suppose really there's only one thing to do, and that's say a big thank you to your panel tonight, just 48 hours ahead of the big kick-off. Albion are going to the Premier League, but here's a big thank you to Paul Barber, to Chris Hughton, and to Tony Bloom. Good night.